Peace, family. Peace, warriors. This is Dr. Sadiki Che Baye, the host of the Men's Room Talk Show, coming to you every Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Family, this is the place where you're going to hear the voices of our warriors, our leaders, our teachers, our guides, our protectors, the Black man, who is doing positive things in our community, who's being the example, who's fulfilling their purpose, because too often the Black man has been getting a bad rap and being blamed for almost everything, including slavery. So we must set the record straight, family, and we must listen to our story and not allowing other people to control our narrative, because they're not going to say anything good. They're going to just trick you up and flipping everything, and they're going to have us against each other. So, family, this is the place where we can call our own. We don't need no permission. This is ours. So, with that in mind, family, we have a serious brother that I am honored to have on the show today. I heard some fantastic things about this warrior, and we're going to hear from him right away. I like to say that we have our warrior, our soldier, our teacher, our provider, our elder, Joe Becton. Welcome, warrior.
Thank you, Doctor. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to have been encouraged to come on.
Yes, sir. I thank you, brother, for everything, taking the time out for us to acknowledge you, because this is what it's all about. We have to, acknowledgement is giving us a reason to be here. Everybody must be acknowledged. And so this is what this show is all about, is acknowledging one another, acknowledging the alphas. All the Black men are alphas. So we're going to acknowledge each other. And it doesn't matter which one that we choose to lead us, we are still all alphas. We are one mind, one aim, one destiny, one God, one purpose. So,
Marcus Garvey.
Hey, Marcus Garvey, brother. Hey, look, we are all Marcus Garvey. And Marcus Garvey is not so much a person. Marcus Garvey is a mindset. You see what I mean? That's what creates the legacy. You pass your mindset down and it becomes the legacy. So with that in mind, brother, I'd like to start off by asking you this, brother. I'm just feeling so good to have you here, brother, because you've been true to your purpose, and I thank the Creator and the ancestors for you. So tell us, Joe Becton, about your background. To give us a little bit about your background, your family, your education, or so much to warm things up.
Well, yes, sir, Doctor. Of course, you're welcome to call me Joe. Not have to be so formal as to Mr. Becton. But yes, my family came to Pennsylvania about 100 years ago. So they came from Southampton, Virginia, a place called Virgilina. They came from Lynchburg, Virginia. They came from New Bern, North Carolina. So they all came from these three different places to meet in Pennsylvania. They came, of course, for those wonderful jobs that they heard about at the shipyard, the Hog Island shipyard. We Philadelphians know it because of the story about the hoagie. But they came up here because there were jobs in factories. They thought Baldwin's Railroad Factory, the Hog Island shipyard, the Philadelphia Navy Yard. They want to come here and get those kind of jobs. But of course, they were blocked by the union. They didn't get the opportunity to have those jobs. Both of my groups of family ended up in the suburbs in a place called Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, right? So Bryn Mawr was and probably still is one of the richest townships in Pennsylvania. We call it the main line sometimes when we refer to it. So they got jobs, working on the so-called main line. One grandfather was a farmer, so he got a job as a gardener and a chauffeur. The other grandfather ended up building a building called the Bryn Mawr Court or Mars Avenue. He worked as a laborer building that building. Eventually, when the building was completed, they gave him the job as an assistant janitor. And over the next 30 years, he became the superintendent of the building. So these are the folks that came here. These are the folks that had that deep, if you will, religious experience and commitment. So as they got here, they all went to the Second Baptist Church in Bryn Mawr. In those days, the First Baptist Church you could usually identify as the white church, and the Second Baptist Church you could usually identify as the black church or colored church. So they went to the Second Baptist Church. While they were going there, they changed the name to St. Memorial's Baptist Church. That's where they all met, and that's where they all got married. So out of their marriages, of course, came my father and my uncle. My father and my uncle both were lucky enough to go to college. One went to Muhlenberg in Allentown, and the other went to Shaw University in North Carolina. The one who went to Muhlenberg ended up spending the rest of his life, well, not the rest of his life, 37 years or so in the United States Army. He actually rose to the rank of lieutenant general. So his father was a janitor, and he was a general. So it's quite a story. I call it a story of success. That's how they moved up in society. My father was a teacher, and he taught at Salzburger Junior High School. One of my experiences, maybe not one of my best experiences, was I was in his class as a social studies class at Salzburger. So at Salzburger, he was my teacher. So of course that gave me some good feelings and of course some bad feelings because a lot of the other students didn't like the idea that he was the teacher and that he was my father. But so that's how I got kind of set up. My father was a social studies teacher, always encouraged me to look at the globe and at maps. He used to play a game with me of, well, find the smallest country in the world. Well, of course, it was a setup because the smallest country in the world is a city. So with that, I was totally searching the globe for that smallest country in the world. Once again, he really set me up quite well. When I got out of junior high school, I was disillusioned with the whole educational thing. So by the time I got to my high school, which was Overbrook High School here in Philadelphia, and Overbrook has a great reputation because of one guy who played basketball there. You probably remember his name, Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, so he's one of the more famous of the Overbrook graduates, and of course, he's the basketball player, the only pro basketball player who actually got 100 points in one game. So those of us at Overbrook are very proud of Wilt Chamberlain. I just couldn't cut it in school. I had a different idea. I was very interested in music at that time. but I never learned how to read music, so I didn't get into the band or the choir or anything like that. But I did start to play on my own, the harmonica and the guitar. So that I deviated from my high school learning, eventually dropped out and joined the Marines. Now, from a small child, I always wanted to be a cowboy and I always wanted to be a Marine. And I have to ask myself, why would a 6-year-old want to be a cowboy? Well, I believe it's because of my overexposure to television. In those days, there were a number of cowboy shows, the Rifleman, and all kinds of silly shows about cowboys. By the way, there were no cowboy shows about black cowboys. So that had an impact on me too. So, and I believe that it was that exposure to the media that got me involved with cowboys that made me think that I wanted to be a cowboy. And also there was a movie. The movie was called From Here to Eternity, and that was about Marines. And I saw that movie when I was about 12, and that made me want to be a Marine. Little did I know that the Marines were racist. Between the War of 1812 and World War II, there were no black Marines. They cut us out of the scene completely, and they tried to pretend that there were never any black Marines. But of course there were. Back in the American Revolution, we've been able to identify 3 men who were black Marines who served in the Continental Marine Corps during the Revolution. During the War of 1812, along the Great Lakes, there was a ship called the USS Lawrence, and there were hundreds of black sailors and Marines on the USS Lawrence who served under Admiral Perry during the War of 1812. These things the Marines tend to forget, but of course, we don't forget, and we haven't forgot. So, nonetheless, I went on into the Marines, and it turned out I couldn't be a good Marine. The idea was, we were there for what? To kill. And my family had been split. One side of my family were Christians. Okay? Got 4 preachers on my mother's side of the family. On my father's side of the family, they were religious, but they were also military. So on my father's side of the family, could trace my family definitely back to the Civil War with a guy named Moses Becton, who served in the 14th Colored Heavy Artillery. And I believe that his connection in that town where he grew up was called North Harlow, a place that's close to Newburgh, North Carolina. And in a town where he grew up, there were other Bectons who had served all the way back to the American Revolution, as well as a family that we moved into that we can document, the Carter family. So Isaac Carter served in the American Revolution, and his brother, John Carter, served in the American Revolution. So in a way, from long before I was born, my family had demonstrated a patriotism, a commitment to the country. And actually, I think that Isaac Carter may have escaped from slavery in Virginia, came across the Dismal Swamp, and settled in that part of North Carolina. So that's how my family ended up here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, Most of them wanted to stay in the suburbs. They preferred the suburbs, and most of them stayed in the suburbs. But my father moved into the city and bought a house on what we call 46 in Girard. And to this day, I'm still at 46 in Girard. As a matter of fact, this morning, I actually had my solar panels installed on my house. So, everybody's saying, go to the suburbs, go to the suburbs. But in fact, many of the houses in the suburbs are built out of cardboard, and they won't be here 50 years from now. This house has already been here 100 years. And now that I got my solar panels on, I'm anticipating another 50 years. So I tell people who live in the city, suburbs are nice, but just remember, everything is going to come back to the city eventually. So That's one of my many messages, is that we need to hold on to our communities that we've developed in these cities instead of moving into the suburbs where everybody I'm going to say everybody worships individualism. They don't have a sense of community like we do inside the city. So I'm always encouraging people, hey, stay in your communities, hold your communities together. I tell young men, to be a man, you work with your community. You encourage and support your family. Not kill people, but support your family.
Oh, that's beautiful, brother. Hey, brother, you gave us some deep stuff there, brother. And both of our journey is kind of similar because I'm born and raised in Virginia.
Yes, sir.
And I ended up here, to play football for Temple. So I stayed up here. Um, I'm originally from Alexandria, Virginia.
All right, right next to DC.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I lived in Ardmore, next to Bryn Mawr.
Very good. Very good. Well, you probably knew some of my family then.
Oh yeah. Your face looked a little familiar there, but I didn't want to say. You know how people say, "Man, it seemed like I've seen you somewhere before." But now that I probably have, because I used to go to Bryn Mawr a lot. You know, as a matter of fact, my son was born in Bryn Mawr Hospital.
I was born in Bryn Mawr Hospital too, as well as
What?
my father and my uncle. As well as
Wow,
my
that's deep.
father and my uncle. Yes.
Oh, brother, that's deep, man. Let
So,
me
as you know, no matter where you go,
no matter where you go, we there. But
no matter
let me
where you
ask
go,
you.
there are those connections.
That's right. That's right. Let me ask you this, brother. You were in the military and you're in the Marines. What what interested you to go to the Marines, and what role did you what rank were you in the Marines?
Well, as I mentioned, it was a silly movie that encouraged me to join the Marines, and I really didn't shake it off. You know, I was 17 years old, 18 years old, and I just couldn't stand school anymore, so I dropped out. And then I went down to the Army recruiter. In those days, the Army recruiter was at 52nd and Chestnut. And I went down to the Army recruiter, and the Army recruiter had moved, and the Marine recruiter had moved in. And I was kind of beside myself about what my future would be. And I said, Army, Navy, Marines, doesn't matter. I'm joining right now. So I joined the Marines. Got into the Marines and ran into some problems. You know, some of the kids from West Philly, we're not too disciplined. So I was in the Marines and doing things like smoking cigarettes behind the barracks and stuff. And you're a recruit. You're not allowed to do that. So I got caught in some of those kinds of things. I dropped out of a morning run one day, and the guy grabbed my collar, and I smacked his hand, and it turned out to be a second lieutenant, and he decided that I had physically assaulted him.
Mm.
So they sent me to a place called Motivation. Right? So up the island, there was a place where they sent, I guess you could say, those who were not adapting well. I wouldn't call myself bad, but I wasn't adapting well. So I moved up the island into the Motivation Platoon, as they called it. And while I was at the Motivation Platoon, I realized one thing very important. My family and my parents had always told me, ask the question. If you don't understand, ask the question. No one can hold it against you for asking a question. And guess what they didn't know? They didn't know the Marines will hold it against you for asking a question. Shut up, do what we say, don't ask any questions. You're in the Marines. So while I spent my time at that Motivation Platoon, I realized that it's going to be very important for me to not ask questions.
Wow.
I ended up being in supply. I was a supply clerk. I rose to the rank of Lance Corporal. While I was in the Marines, I went on a Mediterranean cruise. Now, that sounds really cool, but when we got there, they had the the Israeli-Egyptian War of 1973. Now, for those of you who are as old as I am, that was 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, I was sitting on a boat, the USS Nashville, off the coast of Israel, where the war was going on between Israel and Egypt 50 years ago. Sound familiar? Same war. Same war. You can call it what you want, but it's the same war. So by the time I finished my time in the Marines, I had a wonderful setup. I was going to do 3 years in the Marines. I was going to go to college for 4 years, maybe graduate school. So for the next 6 or 7 years, my life was set. I was pretty happy with that. And also, after I left the Marines, I became a pacifist. So at this time, I'm a pacifist. I'm against war at any cost or at any time. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I think I'm on the right side when I say peace is the way, war is not. So I got into that situation where I started to travel around because I wanted to see the rest of the world. I did get to go to Europe. I did get to go to Turkey, Spain, Italy, Greece. So I visited a number of different places while I was in the Marines. after I came back to the United States, I went to visit Canada. I went to visit Mexico. You won't believe this, but I was a hitchhiker. That's right. I hitchhiked across the United States 4 times from Philadelphia to San Francisco. So I didn't need the cars like all my buddies had when we grew up. They all had cars, but they all just drove around the neighborhood, whereas I would hitchhike 3,000 miles all the way across the nation, down to New Orleans, into Florida, up into Canada, all the way to Guatemala, where I went to Guatemala. The sad thing about me in those days, I wasn't knowledgeable enough about the world to understand or do what I need to do. So, for instance, when I was in Rome, in Italy, right? Did I go to the Colosseum? No. Did I go to the Vatican? No. Where did I go? I went to the discos and to try to find McDonald's. but that's who I was. I mean, I could lie about it, but that's who I was. Same thing when I was in Mexico. I was in Mexico right beside the place where the famous Olmec heads. Now, of course, if you know about them, you know about them. But if you don't know about them, look them up. OLMEC, Olmec. You will find that these people look just like me. And they lived 1500 BC in Mexico. How does that happen? Well, there was a famous book, They Came Before Columbus, written by Ivan van Sertima. That's right, Ivan van Sertima. They came before Columbus, and in that book, he'll explain why he thinks these people came from Africa. Whether they came from Africa, maybe they did. Maybe they came from Micronesia. Because you know the Moorish brothers and the Moorish wise men would tell us, they would say, you know what? East is west and west is east. Old is new and new is old. And for years, I studied that and tried to understand it. I'm not sure that I really understand it yet. But I do know that these people who appear to be Africans were in America 1500 BC. Now, of course, I have many intellectuals say, well, why do you think they're Africans? I said, they look like Africans. I said, how do you tell Africans when you see them? And of course, they don't want to answer that question because we look like Africans. So, the Olmecs, check them out. You know, sometimes we get confused. We think that we are not the native people of America, but many of us are the native people, mixed with those who came across in slavery, but all of us were not necessarily enslaved. So,
well, that's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. You talking about Central America, which is all us.
Yes, sir.
Mexico, all us, and everywhere we go, there's evidence. So, you know, and once upon a time was nobody here but us. Everybody else came later.
I believe that, sir.
And we allowed them to take over our narrative. They're the all-knowing all of a sudden, you know, because they were bullies and they stole everything from us and we had no rights. So we got to reverse this thing. You know, this is what you call, that's what religion is all about, to realign ourselves to our reality. But they took that also and used it against us. And the thing is that now, let me ask you this, brother. What come across the mind? We're talking about community, which means common unity. What is the difference in your mind that what we had as community and the way it is today? What kind of difference is it to you that we had community and now we have neighborhoods or whatever you want to call them?
Well, I believe that our communities have been dismantled on purpose, you know, with reason. All right. For instance, we were talking about that Central Mexico. In Central Mexico, they have wonderful libraries, the library of Tuxtla. And of course, today, intellectuals say, well, if it's not written down, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. But what happened to the library of Tuxtla? The Spanish burned it to the ground. They destroyed every book except for 4. There's only 4 books left from that era. Hey, ancient Egypt, how about that? You know, where's all our books from ancient Egypt? They were in Alexandria. What happened to Alexandria? They burned the library to the ground. And we can see this over and over as different cultures take over. They destroy the information from the other cultures so that nobody knows what really happened. And then they write their own information, claiming that that's the documentation. I think you used the word narrative. That's the big thing right now. The narrative. Well, one of my teachers was from West India. He was from Barbados. His name was Erskine Dotton. And Erskine was the one, when I was in college, who convinced me. He said, your narrative is just as good as their narrative. He said, use your own words, do your own research, and come up with your own narrative. Or the word he didn't use was narrative. He used the word interpretation.
Wow, that's deep, brother. Hey, brother, you're full of information, and we appreciate you, brother, for being a positive figure in spite of what you had to go through, but my thing is, what do you, looking at the way our future look now with the youngsters, really, are not really who they really are. What we need to start looking at some reasons and some whys. We need to start looking at causes along with the effects. So what do you feel that the main cause of us being the way we are compared to the way we used to be when we used to honor and represent our elders and our ancestors?
That's a big question. That's a big question because, for instance, in my life, as I got to more and more school and more education, I came back to tell my grandmother at one point that she didn't know what she was talking about. So at school, they convinced me that somehow my grandmother was wrong. And she wasn't wrong. She knew what she felt. She knew what she experienced. And what she told me was what she felt about her God, about her life, and about her way. And they had convinced me that something was wrong with her. She was a fool. So it happened. I wasn't into my 30s when I was able to review the whole thing and realize, no, my grandmother wasn't a fool. And she told me what she believed and what she knew to be true. What they told me on television, what they told me in all these movies and all that foolishness, they were the fools and making a fool out of me. So that's one of our big problems, is that we have been taught to disrespect our elders, disrespect our history. When you talk to the kids about our history, they say, I don't want to hear about that, G. That's some old slavery stuff. I'm not trying to hear that, old G. Little do they know, slavery was part of it, but we rose up out of slavery. We established heroes. We established schools. We established all the things that community is. I mean, we don't talk about it, but right after the Civil War, we had black congressmen. We had a lieutenant governor of Louisiana. We had sheriffs, deputies, police, soldiers. We had all these things. In the South, who started the public school? The black and tan governments. That's what we call Reconstruction. Black and tan, like dark and light, black and tan governments. They just established the public schools. Who established the fire departments? They just established the fire department. Who established the water departments? They established the water departments, right? But as far as our kids know today, we didn't do nothing. I have a lot of young brothers tell me, if y'all had done your job in your time, we wouldn't have these problems now. That's why we got Black Lives Matter. I tried to explain to them and said, no, brother, you don't know yet, see? But we had the Anti-Lynching League, and that started right after the Civil War when they started lynching black men and black people like water. You know it. What's his name? Lerone Bennett. He wrote this very famous book, Before the Mayflower. And in his book, at the back of his book, he has a system of listings of the number of people who were lynched in each year that they were able to identify. And in many years, that was thousands of people all across America. So our Anti-Lynching League was a predecessor to the Black Lives Matter as we fought against lynching. So we fought against that. The only idea, of course, is that they wanted to get back their power. So they attacked us in the streets. They attacked us in the homes. And of course, for 100 years, lynching was kind of the ordinary thing in America. some people say they even had special parties to come and watch black men and black women be lynched. And of course, maybe the most famous lynching or murder is Isaac Till, Emmett Till. Probably the most famous of all the murders and lynchings. And many people say that because of his mother exposing him to the television, that would change the entire world. Well, it certainly participated in the change. There's no doubt about that. So when it comes to the things that we have done, we forget about what we have done. We forget who were the great heroes. We forget about the educators. There's a big move that we're involved in now about black inventors, about black educators, about blacks in the military, about blacks in everything. There's a guy up in Massachusetts, Henry Louis Gates. He wrote a book called The Negro Century or the Black Century, talking about the 20th century, how Africans in America rose up to all the problems, rose up to all the hatred, rose up to all the obstacles to be the people that we would be in the 21st century. People like Barack Obama, the president of the United States.
Wow, brother, that was deep. And I know you can dive a little deeper because we used to be deep divers. Now we're surface divers. You know, we used to be deep rooted, but now we're surface rooted. Anything come by, blow us all over the place. We got to reevaluate. Yeah, we have to reevaluate our reality and not allow people to take over our narrative. But see, when it's a requirement to go to school and get a quote unquote education, no matter how thuggish and how vicious they were, we had to look at them as heroes. So now we have to reevaluate these things and ask questions, you know, the reasons and the whys. You know, a lot of what I loved about the elders back in the day when I was coming up, they didn't have a whole lot of education, but they had a whole lot of life skills. I'd rather have life skills than education because my skills will tell me to be educated. So we're kind of ass backwards in this thing, and a lot of times we are afraid to tell the truth. We don't even have to exaggerate our stories when we talk about the enemy. We don't even have to exaggerate, just tell it the way it is. You know what I mean? So I love the elders and the ancestors because they were in tune with life. They had life skills that brought them through in spite of all of this bull crap and all of this so-called education. I got all kinds of degrees, but my thing is to hold me accountable of what I do with these degrees. It's not a matter of you having it, it's a matter of what are you doing with it. And if it's not benefiting your people, then what good is it?
So how do you use it? I have to agree 100%. When we go to school, you know, we have to prepare to operate in that organization, in that society, if you will. And of course, many of us reject it because we know that it's not, if you will, good, that it's not positive. I find that the society picks at us piece by piece. You know, when I was young, they had me convinced that black was bad, black was evil, and consequently, I viewed myself as being bad and being evil. You know,
true.
Until I found out, you know, that black is not bad. Black is rich. Black is the earth. Black is what everything comes from. I heard a brother not too long ago talking about the universe was black and in blackness. And I would say, well, that's a different way of looking at it. But it's a positive way of looking at something that our society has told us is negative. So all the way from the beginning, the color of our skin, the way that we think, the music that we love. You remember, of course, that when we came to America, we loved polyrhythms. What did they do with polyrhythms? They made them illegal. What kind of country would make music illegal? Oh, ours. That's the kind of country that make music illegal. You don't remember that, huh? When we were growing up, people used to do something called ham bone. You say, what's that? What's the ham bone? Well, ham bone is where the hand meets the bone. They said, what are you talking about? Well, you make your own music.
That's right. That's right.
your own music, and in your own music, there's joy. Now, you say, well, how about happiness? Well, happiness might be something else. And I'm 71 years old. I haven't been able to find happiness. But in joy, I can sing a song. I can find joy. In a prayer, I can find joy. And dancing, I can find joy. And in rhythms, I can find joy. Now, happiness, that's a little bit something else. But joy, I always tell everybody, joy and music are gifts from God.
Woo, woo. Hey, brother, this is a joyful day to have you on the Men's Show. So I like to say this. My thing is this, brother. We go to these schools because it's a requirement. They call it a requirement because this is a paper-oriented society. You got to go to school and bust your behind and spend all this money to get a piece of paper that qualifies you to get a job that's not even guaranteed.
No.
So true education is really knowing who you are, because the first law of nature is self-preservation. We send our children out here in this world naked and defenseless and depending on other people to define them. And that's why a lot of our children look up to them. We need to check that out. And community, when I look at community is a structure. And children don't have no choices unless they're given choices. Now, children have all kinds of choices that they don't even know what to do with because they're not mature, they're not developed enough, and they're not disciplined enough to know exactly how it's supposed to go. That's when we should come in. Something happened that we kind of took community for granted, and I think it was this thing that they call integration. There was a fake. There was the fake move for us, that integration. We need to go back and develop community. And there's where the Black men have to stand up to lead, guide, and direct this thing back into the fold. Because one thing about the system, they're not afraid of women and children. They give them assistance, they give them this, give them a job, and send them over in the corner somewhere. That's why everywhere they go, the first thing that the enemy do is to destroy the seed carrier. Then he becomes the seed carrier. And that's why we got all these mixtures going on here, and one playing one against the other, and so forth and so on, when in fact, we are all the same. Now, one thing I like to say before I ask you another question is, you mentioned about Black. The only thing that can exist without light is darkness. And because out of the darkness comes everything, including light. So Black is
we
all.
See that.
So Black
we
is
see
all
that in our creation. We see that in our creation stories. Yes, we do.
That's right. Out of the darkness comes everything, including the light. So we are all that. We, as a matter of fact, we are the universe as individuals.
Now, I believe that, but a lot of people get very upset when I say that. I'm not saying that we are God, but we're part of God, the God spirit, if you will, and everybody is. They just have to understand who they are. And I think that a lot of our problems, we mentioned that education, that indoctrination that we go through. Everything they say is that we need to buy. You don't have this. You don't look like this. You need this. You need that. You need a Mercedes. You need blonde hair. You need, they're like I said earlier, they're destroying us piece by piece, pulling piece out after piece out after piece out until, in many cases, there's only self-hate left. And that's how we can go down the street and blow our neighbor's brains out over our parking space because he looks like us. We hate ourselves and we hate him. And who cares about a parking space? Who cares about it?
Wow.
Nobody.
Wow. That's some deep conditioning, and
yes,
and in order to turn this thing around, we must first acknowledge where we are. And then devise a process See, we're not a process people anymore. We're an emotional people. So we go on how we feel. And we got to be careful with that, because the wise man goes by what he knows, not what he feels. Because your feelings can be deceiving. So we have to start knowing something. We got to first and foremost know who we are. We are all the leaders, including Jesus and all of that. He said, if you believe as I believe, you're my brother. My Father in heaven is your Father. So when you see me, you see the Father, for I and the Father are one. So yeah, and then when you look at the original meaning, we got to go etymology, because a lot of times we argue over ignorance in somebody else's language. And so we got to, when you see the original meaning of God, when it first came on the scene, the original meaning of God meant a man. We got to understand it is what it is. But they spooked us up and made everything spooky. And we end up spooking ourselves out of who we are. You know, so we have to turn this thing around. But brother, I'm going to shift a little bit because of the time factor. And you're a very brilliant brother. And I'm feeling you more and more like I've been knowing you all the time. Because when you explain to me or share with us your journey, man, it was almost the same journey from Virginia all the way up here. You live next door in Bryn Mawr. I was in Ardmore. So you went to the military. I went to college. So the thing is that, brother, we are one. And that's why we need to bring our minds together, this third eye, this pituitary gland, this pineal gland, that they don't have that because it's been calcified. That's why they have no emotions, no spirit, no feelings, no none of that. They're cold-blooded. But guess what? We got to acknowledge the fact that God don't make no mistakes, because everything that exists have opposites. They are opposites. So we shouldn't expect them to be like us. So let us stop tripping, praying to God, God, please tell that snake stop being a snake. No, a snake is a snake. We got to acknowledge our reality and know that we are the ones that define everything. We invented everything that was divine. We created everything that's divine. But we got this one person to find a rock on the street and say, look at this rock. This rock is worth $1 million. And I'm saying, are you for real? But this is how they trick us up, that they're the all-knowing, that they're the all this and all that. But they have to portray that. But why are we still going for the okie doke? You see what I mean? So the black man got to stand up and demand his respect. It's all about respect. It's not all, see, we talk too much about love when love means nothing if it doesn't have a foundation. So what is the foundation of love but respect? That's all we were taught when we was little. I never heard the word love until I got older, but we always understood respect. And we got to get back and start respecting one another, but it starts with self. You got to have it to give it. So with that in mind, brother, yes, sir. I understand that you're a musician. You're a multi-talented brother. You play the guitar and the harmonica. Can you play a tune, a short tune on the harmonica if you have it with you? And then we're going to go to the next phase, brother, and we're going to close it out. But man, I heard you playing it before. Go ahead, brother.
This one's broke. Give me another one. There's 3 of them right here. No?
No. You must have
In the
moved
box. All of a sudden, I can't seem to find my harmonica. I don't know what's up with it. Okay, here we go. A bag full.
Right now.
So, there we go. That's
All
my
right,
harmonica. Look, I love Stevie Wonder. I love Stevie Wonder and that harmonica playing. Now, a lot of times you see an African like me with a harmonica and you say, oh, yeah, I know. Well, no, you don't know. Harmonicas were invented in Germany in 1822. Why do I like it? Because there's a party in my pocket. I take it out and bam, there goes the party. They used to call it a mouth organ because you could play anything on it. So when it comes to your music, take your time. Learn your music. Everybody's afraid about computer music. I'm not afraid about computer music because the computer don't have no feeling. It can copy, but it can't feel. It can't express the vibrations that a human can express. So take your time. Find your talent because you have one. You have one. They keep telling you, you don't have no talent. You ain't nothing but this. You ain't nothing that. They're lying. You got talent, innate talent in you through your music, through your spiritualism, through your. You are, as the doctor said, you are everything. It's right there inside you. You have to believe in yourself. You have to make a plan and go for what it is you want. And guess what? You will succeed. If you have a plan and you have a commitment, I'm going to say it again, you will succeed.
Oh, that's beautiful, brother. And the key to that, brother, to piggyback off what you said, you will succeed. The key to it all is to get a rhythm. Once you get a rhythm, it'll carry you. That's what you call the science, the law of inertia. Things that are in motion have a tendency to stay in motion and pick up as it goes along. But unfortunately, we don't stick to nothing long enough to get that rhythm, unless it's craziness. We got to turn this. See, we are science. We are all that. Whatever the divineness in life, we are that. And before I get to the end, I would like to share this with you and the audience and everything. Not that you don't know, but to see how we are one. And when you look at the universe, there's 4 main elements of the universe. There's hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon. Now, when you look at the black man and woman, what is the 4 elements that they're made of? Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon. So what does that tell us? We are the universe. There is nothing that we define everything. We define everything. Yes. So we are we are the universe as individuals, just like the beach have a sand, a greens. Each grain represents the beach. So we are gods. Let's not get tricked up about that, because first of all, like I said before, let's go back to etymology. When God first came on the scene, they said it's a man. That's why they say that Imhotep was worshiping God for 3,000 years. So why are we tripping now? You see what I mean? Because see, this religion, man, I'm telling you, that's the main thing that they use to get us, to flip us, to make everything spooky. You know what I mean? But we have to, like people like me and you, we are the balancers. We have to balance this thing out. And being a balancer is not easy, because you got to deal with all them other energies, these other forces. But guess what? I have no problem, because I have to fulfill my purpose. Matter of fact, I have to earn my blessing too. So I'm going to do what I need to do and let the chips fall where they may. That's what the real man do. So with that in mind, warrior, I thank you for the deep stories. We want to have you back. And remember, we're encouraging you, brother, to write that book, because you are a book. You are a book with many chapters and many volumes. And this is the way that you create your legacy. And I will encourage each one of us as individuals to document our stories, to document our reality. And before I get off, I'd like to ask Queen Mother Harriet to give her what she have to say, and then we're going to let you have the last words, brother, for today, because we really appreciate you. We honor you.
Oh, wait.
We respect you.
Could I interrupt one moment? I want to ask Mr. Becton if he would please talk about his involvement with the 3rd Regiment. He's wearing the uniform right now. And I think this is one of the most fascinating things about this man, besides the fact that he has his own tour operation that goes all over the city and tells the story of the 3rd Regiment, the city of Philadelphia, Black history, whatever it is. He is a magnificent monument, for entrepreneurs, business owners, for children in school. I mean, he's all of that. So we need to honor him. And the 3rd Regiment is a huge part of his life. So I really, really would like to hear from him. Let him, no matter if it takes another half hour or so, we need to get this information out, because it's critical that we remember our first freedom fighters in this country. Our very first freedom fighters were the men who volunteered to fight for our freedom. So we must take that and explode it so that it falls all over everyone's ears, because it's critical information. Mr. Beckman, I would love for you to tell that story.
Well, thank you so much. As I mentioned, I got out the Army. I did go to college in Pensacola, Florida. I mean, while I was in Pensacola, Florida, I was able to write my very first article that was published, "The Negro Fort on the Apalachicola." It told the story of the Black population of Pensacola leaving town when they knew Andrew Jackson was coming to their town and going to establish their own town and their own fort, which ultimately be called the Negro Fort. By the way, that's not the first Black fort in Florida. The first Black fort in Florida was 1735, called Fort Moose. This fort was 1814, called the Negro Fort. So I published my first article then. I got a job with the Park Service, and that was the first time that I put on a blue uniform like this. So I was at Fort Barrancas. It was the 4th of July, 1983. I'm standing at the entrance gate to the fort. People are coming in, and I'm a Black man in a Union uniform in Pensacola, Florida, in the South, on the 4th of July.
Wow.
I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a setup. It was a setup. They wanted me to fail. That's why they put me out there like that. But it went well. I'm pretty good at communicating with people, so it went well. The part I want to relate to you is that a little girl came up with a mother, Floridians, white Floridians. She came. The little girl looked at me. She said, "Mommy, is that a real Yankee?" She said, "Yeah, girl, that's a real Yankee." So that was it. That was it. And from then on, because the guys that I was representing came from Philadelphia. Now, at the time, I didn't get it, but they came from Philadelphia. They were trained right here in Philadelphia in Camp William Penn. And that's in Cheltenham, Pennsylvania, or right outside the Philadelphia city lines. They were the 25th United States Colored Troops. I was representing people from my town and didn't even know. That's the way my life is. Like I said, when I was in Rome, I didn't go to Colosseum. When I was in Mexico, I didn't see the Olmec heads. I'm representing one of my own relatives, my own neighbors, and don't even know that I'm doing it. So when I got back to Philadelphia, I actually worked at a place called Fort Mifflin. It's a historic fort out by the airport, and I was the director of visitor services. So I set up all the programs, music programs, weapons demonstrations, bought cannons, all that kind of stuff. Now, some people would say, "Wait a minute, didn't you say you were a pacifist?" Yes, I am a pacifist. And when I talk about war, I talk about it in that vein, the evil of war, the destruction, the children who are killed, the people who had nothing to do with it. The only people who benefit from war are the ones who make weapons of war. So that's where I was. And when I was at Fort Mifflin, a bunch of Boy Scouts came out and they said, "Oh, we want to be soldiers too." So then we all joined together and made our regiment. One of those pictures you can see of our regiment, all dressed up in our blue uniforms. We were going to tell our stories because they weren't being told. They didn't say nothing about how America rejected the black soldiers. They didn't say nothing about, how we had to fight and push to even get the right to fight. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But that's what happened. And of course, when we left Camp William Penn, there were 11 regiments that were served at Camp William Penn. The guys that I'm with, we represent the first group that left Camp William Penn, the 3rd Regiment, United States Colored Troops. That group went to Florida and fought all over Florida. As a matter of fact, next week in Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, there's going to be a battle reenactment of the Battle of Olustee. Some of the guys from my regiment will be there, and black soldiers from across America will be there to represent. And you know what? It's not even that it was like so great because we got beat that day, but it's because we were there and then nobody remembers that we were there. So, yes, we're at it. Schools. This morning, I was at the Afro-American Museum in Philadelphia talking about the black soldiers of the Revolution. This weekend, the 10th of February, we're going to be at the E9 Baptist Church, the one up on Cheltenham Avenue, telling our stories with our tents and our exhibits at the E9 Baptist Church. Monday is Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Well, we like Abraham Lincoln because of the Civil War. His birthday is celebrated at the Union League, which is kind of difficult for us, but we still will step out to celebrate and to march in that parade from the so-called Union League at Broad and Simpson down to Independence Hall, where we will raise the flag about 1:30 at Independence Hall in remembrance of Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War. So yes, schools, battlefields, churches, any place that we can get in to tell our stories, we will tell our stories.
All right.
The 3rd Regiment, United States Color. I know you don't like color. Color? What do you mean color? Color? What color are you talking about? Well, the color we're talking about is darker than blue. Right?
Well, as
so
one of the things that it's our story is ever evolving. So is our name. It's always being changed. But as the people in New Orleans always have celebrated the fact that we were the original people of this land, and they call themselves the, Indians. And they have the Mardi Gras Indians, all kinds of tribes that are considered as Indians. But we are the indigenous people of the world because we were here 600,000 years before any other race. So we had a head start. And I like to say this, 600,000 years of keeping this planet perfect. And these people who have recently appeared have had it 500 years. And guess what they've done? We had it 600,000 years. And they've had it 500 years. And look at what they've done to our planet. So we need to think about that. So who's the smarter? Who's the wiser? Who is the person or the people who can take care of this planet best? Whose traditions and history is rooted in that history. We are the caretakers. We were given that job when the Creator made man. He also gave him the responsibility of naming everything and then taking care of everything. And that included the plants, the animals, everything, and each other. So we must remember that. It's very important that we internalize that. But I want to say I thank you, because one of the most important things I feel about the 3rd Regiment and all the soldiers who fought in the Civil War, if it wasn't for them, where would we be? If they did not stand up, where would we be? So that's why it's important for us to honor them. And I thank you for participating. You were going to say something.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I always talk about in my different programs is this flag. You ever see it before? Let me get it out. There it is. You ever see it before? This is the 35 star flag of the Civil War. This is the flag that the soldiers
Right.
carried from town to town, from house to house, from
Right.
plantation to plantation, telling everyone that they were free. That 13-star flag didn't do that. The
Right.
50-star flag
Didn't do that.
doesn't do that. This flag was the flag of freedom. Why don't we see it? Because nobody wants us to see it. Nobody wants us
Okay.
to talk about how we fought for that freedom and how we
Mhm.
define freedom for America.
Mhm.
Before us, nobody even talked
Right.
about freedom. They were talking about liberty. They were talking about rights. They were talking about independence. You think we cared about independence? We weren't free? We didn't care. So this is what I call the flag of freedom, and I'm spreading that word to everyone. The young brothers say, "Oh man, I hate that flag. I hate it." Well, maybe you do, but 218,000 black men went out and fought for this flag so that we could be free today. We're still free. We forgot about them and we forgot about their flag, and that's one of my tasks is for us to remember them and remember this flag, the flag of freedom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where can we get that flag? We like people to get their own. Where can they order that?
Now, to order this flag, you actually have to order it from Gettysburg. There's a guy up there, not a black company, called the Regimental Quartermaster, and they sell these flags about $6 or $7 a piece if you buy it individually. If you buy a gross 144, then you can get them for about $3 a flag. Now, why would you buy a gross? You say, what do you need 144 flags for? We need a gross because we're going to put these on the graves of our black Civil War soldiers. So when you go to various graveyards, you will, at least in the southeast of Pennsylvania, you will see these flags on the graves, Eden Cemetery and places like that. These flags will be on the graves identifying our ancestors who served in the Civil War. That's why we need them. Because we'll go by the graveyard. Matter of fact, some people don't even go to the graveyard at all.
Right.
You know, they put their people in. See, I'm always walking around in the graveyard because that's history. And they come up to me and said, "Well, do you know where so-and-so is?" I said, "Where did you leave them? You came here 20 years ago and you planted them and now you're just coming back. And you wonder where they are." So we don't even go and visit our ancestors. We don't respect them. We don't acknowledge them. We believe that 6 o'clock every night, 6 o'clock on the news, every night, there's some black man who's a criminal, some black man who's killing people. Excuse me, there's 3 million of us in the Philadelphia area. Why do we only concentrate on those who are making problems, those who are having problems? Because somebody wants us to believe that we are not who we are.
That's true, brother.
Exactly.
So
And that's why
I have a website.
Yeah.
So,
what is that website? What is the website?
JOBECTON. I'm going to tell you. www.JOBECTON.org. Okay? So that's my website. And of course, you can get more information about some of the things that I've been talking about. Of course, we haven't talked about everything. Come on. We didn't talk about the Buffalo Soldiers. No, we didn't. We didn't talk about the War of 1812. We didn't talk about the Underground Railroad. We've got all these stories that we have done, all these things that we have done to fight against slavery, to fight against prejudice, and to define what freedom is. So every time we open a different door, and of course, I've got my new documentary that I'm working on. Monica Lyons is my videographer, choreographer, and she's capturing all these moments. She's capturing this moment right now. I guarantee you, she's capturing all these moments so that we can tell the story of me. It's called Never Turn a Blind Eye. And I think that my grandmother, she turned a blind eye when I went to school, and she came back and told her that stuff. She said, "I've worked hard to send you to school and make you a person. You came back an educated fool." So never. When we're invading people and we're causing war, we're turning a blind eye. Why are we turning a? We make more money when we have war, huh? Or do we?
Oh, yeah.
Or do we make more money?
Do we?
Somebody makes
Great.
more money.
Spend
But do
more
we
money.
make more money? So
Yeah.
always spend more money. So that's my website. I've got a YouTube, Joe Becton YouTube, where you can find a lot of my music and some of my speeches. I've got a wonderful speech on Juneteenth. That's right, Juneteenth. Somebody told me, Joe Becton, y'all just made up Juneteenth. I said, no, we didn't. I said, Juneteenth goes with the solstice. People have been celebrating the solstice for 20,000 years. We didn't make nothing up. And that's why we call it Juneteenth,
Right.
because the solstice happens in the teen days of June. So it's almost a perpetual holiday that people around the world celebrate. It's not that we made it up. We may have attached our particular holiday to it, but it's been a holiday forever. But once again, through our educational system, right?
Okay.
You know, we got this horrible calendar, right? Matter of fact, this is the perfect example to talk about it. This month, we're going to add a day to the year because our calendar is so messed up. We got to alter it. But guess what? Everybody's calendar wasn't like that. You know? The Mayans had a calendar that was just about perfect. The Egyptians had a very good calendar. Persians had a very good calendar. It's our calendar, the Julian calendar, the Georgian calendar that are so messed up that we have to keep altering and changing the days of the year. Is it 364 and a quarter? Is it 365? We have to keep changing it because it didn't set the calculations properly. Once again, a problem of our education, or as Carter G. Woodson called it, the miseducation of the Negro.
That's right, brother.
You're right.
Woo, brother. Hey, brother, you're right, brother. We're in so many different areas. I'm a major in the Buffalo Soldiers. When you mention that, I say, wow, yeah. We have so many different things that we have addressed, brother, but we feel ashamed about, and we don't want to know nothing about it. They say, oh man, that's in the past. No, the past is the reason why things are the way they are today. Because right now, brother, where each and every one of us are are choices that we made yesterday. All choices have a future. That's why we have to be careful what we choose, because all choices are seeds. Be careful what you plant. You know. So I had a brother tell me that
just grow on you.
I had a brother telling me that yeah, brother, you know, I planted some beans. Then all of a sudden, when it was harvest day, I saw them watermelons. So I said, I thought you planted beans. See, you can't fool nature. Just wait and just watch, and you will see the truth about each matter that is presented to us. We have to slow our pace down. You can't go the same speed all the time. That's why they have drill sergeants, you know, to speed it up, slow it down, walk, stop, this, that. See, and this is what we have to train our children to be able to adjust according to the situation. You can't go the same speed all the time. So we have to be disciplined, and we have to get our children when they're young. Stop talking about how pretty they are and how much of a man they are when they're little children. You know, the first thing that I found out when I was coming up, be tough on the children in the beginning and let up as time go on. But we reversed it. We let them get away with this and get away with that when they're little, and by the time they get older, they're already set. So now they're going to challenge you.
Yeah.
So we kind of what they call ass backwards.
Well, one of the things I like parents to do is to tell our stories and, you know, contact Joe Becton and let him give you the information you need, because this is priceless. This is priceless. You're a walking monument here, and we need to have that in written form so to last forever. Books last forever. And legacy is what it's all about. I'm an author, so I am all into writing, and I'm also into documenting everything. That's why we do this show, because we want people to know people like you exist who work every day to uplift our people and are not acknowledged. And we are here to say to you, you are our blessing and you are our gatekeeper. And, we are just amazed and grateful that the Creator made you so that we can learn about our history, about who we are and what we are. So, a million thanks. And we expect you to come back. As producer of the show,
Go ahead, brother.
I would love to have the opportunity to come back. As I said, there's a number of different topics that we didn't get to touch on yet, and I know it's been an hour, and I know that I'm verbose, but I have this problem in my life. If you look in a newspaper, you'll see all these pictures of me in the newspaper, Channel 6, Channel 10. Never, almost never do they print a word that I have said. Nice pictures, cute suits. Oh, yeah. But almost never do they repeat the words that I have said.
Well, this is your place.
Right now, the thing that I'm a pacifist and I'm against war, nobody wants to hear that. Everybody said, you're against war. What about these poor people? I said, the poor people are dying. That's why I hate war.
Yes.
Because the people are getting killed.
Right. Thank you.
But somehow some people don't seem to notice that. They don't seem to notice that. So I would love to come back. I've got more topics to discuss. I didn't even tell you the difference between the flags. Look at these flags. How about that one? How about this one?
All right.
You ever see that one?
Right. What is that one?
Next show, we're going to talk about what this flag is. That's the Confederate flag.
Okay.
No, it's not. Where's the crosses? Well, the Confederate flag, the first Confederate flag had no crosses. The one with the crosses is the battle flag they took into battle, so that these two flags didn't get confused on the battlefield because they're both red, white, and blue. This one, stars and stripes. This one, stars and bars. They're both American flags, one for the North, one for the South, one that eventually, because it didn't start out for freedom, but one that eventually became for freedom, and one that eventually was destroyed.
Right.
Oh,
right.
wow.
Amen. You see?
So we got many stories to talk about, many more.
All right.
I would love to come back.
Well, we definitely want to have you back, brother, because not only do you have many stories, you are the story.
Thank you. That's why we got to get it on paper.
Got to get it documented, brother. Documented.
Right. Yeah.
All right, you guys. I'm going to put some stuff in the newspaper within this month, and I've been working on this book for 21 years, but I'm going to keep on working on my book too. And we won't be too long, maybe a year or so, till we'll have that documentary out. Never turn a blind eye. I'm really concerned about children. It seems like to me they don't read. Of course, maybe that's just because I'm old and I don't know what they read. But I really don't think that kids are reading. So I'm concerned about that. I'm worried about that.
You're right, but see, the things that they're reading are required readings from the system.
But let me say this one thing. There has been a growth of Black authors who are writing children's stories, and even children who are writing stories. That has started happening in the last 20 years, and that's something that we want to encourage, because no one is too young to write a book. No one is too old to write a book. So we all need to be busy documenting, because this is our heritage. Timbuktu is there because of us. The oldest documents in the world are in Timbuktu. Families there have cherished these books for millions of years, and they have safeguarded them. And some of them are just coming out of the sand. Can you imagine a family for generations after generation protecting books so that we could see the truth today? I tell you, we have something here. There's something here. We're writing
and
they
had to hide them. They had to hide them because people would have
Right.
shown up and
Yep.
destroyed them.
True.
You know, so they
Right.
had to hide them. And as time goes on, and that's another thing I encourage young people: learn more than one language. As long as
Yeah,
we
thank
operate in
you.
just one language, we only get one source of information, and that one
True.
source of information
Right.
is biased. They tell me, "Oh, you're biased." I said, well, "I'm biased. I'm the only one." It is.
Not hardly. Not hardly.
Hey, brother, we
Well, this has
appreciate
been
you.
an amazing show, and I thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate
So
you more
I'm
than
going
you.
And once again,
to check out and.
Go ahead, Queen.
Mm-hmm.
well,
Yeah.
I thank y'all. I thank y'all
It's
so much
absolutely
for having
wonderful.
me. If I can
No.
end with just one statement,
Yes.
we are the people who define freedom. Okay?
Mm.
We had to fight for freedom, fight for the right to have our children, fight for the right
Yeah.
to have our families, fight for the right to go to school, fight for the right to go to McDonald's. We are the people who define freedom, not those people who block freedom, not those people who don't want
Right.
the right to vote to pass around, but we are the ones who, I'll say it the last time, define freedom. Thank you.
And that's
Thank
why
you.
we are
Thank
freedom
you.
fighters. That's why we are labeled as freedom fighters. And that's why I appreciate you, brother, because you are our general. You are the top alpha. And we appreciate you, brother, because you are definitely an example of honoring and representing our people, the ones before,
Mhm.
the ones who are here, and the ones after. And we thank you, brother, for all that you have done, all that you are doing, and all that you're going to do. And we want to cheer you on, brother. We are here for you because we're on that same path. You know, we are the ones who's honoring and representing those before us because we are team players. Most people are not team players because they can't get beyond themselves. So we are the team players, and as a matter of fact, brother, in reality, we are the ancestors having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, so we must keep the connection with the spiritual ancestors because when we transform, we go back to that and come back as another powerhouse. You can't destroy the spirit, brother, and that's what we are, spirit. Just like our brother Nat Turner, I know you know back there in Virginia, Nat Turner was one of our main freedom fighters from Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, brother,
You know what they said about Nat? They said Nat read the Bible and went crazy. But I don't believe that Nat read the Bible and went crazy. There was a guy named David Walker. David Walker wrote a book called A Plea to the Black Citizens of the World. So check out David Walker's book and you'll see what I think Nat Turner read, and that's why he broke out like he did.
Mm. But they groomed him. They groomed him while he was
appeal.
Well, Nat Turner was deemed the prophet when he was in his mother's womb. So you know we got to study our stories. You know, and we are eagles by nature, but we're going to school for chickens, and chickens don't even fly. So you know, and you think they're going to tell us we're eagles when eagles eat chickens? Oh no. So they might be stupid, but they ain't that stupid. But we got to wise, we got to wise up, brother, and understand our reality and our connection to each other. We are like the sun that exploded, and we are the particles of the sun.
All right, yeah. Okay. Sounds like brilliance all around tonight. The two of you are amazing men and a fine example of the Black men that we want to portray to the world because you're here, you're doing it, and no one acknowledges. So we're here to say, this is your stage. Tell us about what you're doing, how you do it, and why you do it. And Mr. Beckman, I am so thrilled to have you here and to invite you back. Let this be your home. If you ever need a platform to discuss anything, please call on us. We are here for you.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, ma'am, I will. Thank you.
And like they say,
You're
don't
most
you
welcome.
forget. Don't you forget that. Yes, sir. We're really here for you, brother, and we feeling you. You know, and one thing about energy recognizes itself. And that's why we acknowledge one another, because we are really acknowledging ourselves. So I
Right.
appreciate you, brother.
Agreed.
And with this in mind, brother, I'd like to thank you once again for taking the time and having the patience to even get on to air this show, because we was having a little difficulty for a while. But persistence is the key. And we are very persistent people. We understand the value of being persistent.
Right.
So
Can't
so
give
it's
up.
thank you, team player, for your patience and taking the opportunity to share with us what our Creator and our ancestors has blessed you with, and that is very important.
Yeah, normally we have a there's one person online. I don't know what. Let me see if I can get it up. Okay, we have one person online to say great show. I just want to let you know that. And it's Mr. Odom. He's on Facebook. Mr. Yumi Odom. He says great show. Yeah, he's on Facebook tonight. And one other thing I wanted to say, we normally do our video at the end of the show. I was wondering if your guitar was handy so you can give us a little blues. I understand you do the blues.
Well, yes, I'm from Philly, right? So the musicians in Philly, we have a tendency to learn a wide berth of music. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So when I was coming up and I was playing blues, they said, "Man, you that's stupid. You playing blues." And of course, what happened and what always happens with our music is it leaves here and it goes around the world.
Exactly.
So there was one blues player here in Philadelphia. Jerry Ricks is what they called him. He left Philadelphia and spread blues around the world. So yeah, that's just one element of our story. The music, as I said, there's a spiritualism in that, even in that music.
Yeah.
The blues, so bad one time I put my face in a permanent frown. You know I'm feeling so much better I can take a walk into town. Yes, I woke up feeling so good, pretty darling. Yes, I lay right back down again. That big leg of me, mama, might not feel this good again. Well, I'm only 71, you know. I had the blues so bad one time and put my face in a permanent frown. You know I'm feeling so much better I can keep walking. With all the sunny weather I could keep walking. I'm feeling so much better. And now that we're together, with all the sunny weather I could keep walking to town.
All right. amazing.
All right, warrior. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a man of many skills and many talents.
Yes, yes, yes.
Warrior. Thank you,
This
warrior. Go ahead, Queen.
Yeah. I was just going to say, this is a real soul man.
That's right. And a real soul man. Look up Joe Becton, the real soul man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And with that in mind, brother, I'd like to thank you for taking us to. Yes, sir. Thank you for taking us to the finish line on this go round, and we're going to have you back, brother, so that you can school us on the things that we must be aware of in order to regain our balance, because life is all about balance. Right. And so I'd like to thank you for all of that. And I'd like to say this before we get off, that life is based on holistic living. And holistic living, from my awareness, is right thinking, right giving, and right eating. And you got God's eye in the center of everything that we do. So we are the children of the Most High, and we must acknowledge our Father wherever we go. We must be the ultimate examples, because we are the only ones that can bear witness that there is God, because of our intelligence, because of our reality, you know. So with that in mind, family, right thinking, right giving, right eating is holistic living. And remember to always stay strong and keep your faith where it belongs. That's the challenge. And also do your best and let God do the rest. You got to know when to hold and know when to fold. How do you know when to hold and when to fold? You got to have a sharp discerning spirit to know the difference, so you won't be using emotions. You'll be using what you know. Like the wise man goes by what he knows, but we got to start knowing something other than our programming, our training, you know, of what somebody else gave us. If we're eagles and we go to school for chickens, we don't have to wonder why we lower our standards and why our children can't relate. They're not even feeling it. So we have to find a way to balance that. And that's up to the Black man to promote that, and for our women to get beside us so that we can do this thing together. That's what you call family. That's what you call unity. That's what you call godhood. And we got to go for what we know and have no more regrets, family. No more regrets. Say what you mean and mean what you say. And let's do this thing together. Thank you, warrior Joe Becton. I appreciate you, elder. I appreciate you, warrior. And we already know that what a soldier is a trained killer. But we want to elevate it into the warriorhood. The warriors keep the peace, keep the order, you know, keeps everything flowing, everything balanced. But if he have to kill, he will. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank you, and thank you, Queen, for assisting you in all of that. So with that in mind, warrior, I'd like to say have a blessed night, a blessed life, and continue to do what you're doing. You have our support, the ones that are responsible for the Men's Room Talk Show. We want to have you back again soon so that you can keep us full and keep the spirit going, because you are the man.
Soul man.
Soul man. Right, the real soul man.
The real
thank
deal.
you all so much, and thank you for organizing and continuing the men's room. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank our listeners too, especially Yummy, and I see Miss Brandy Reed was online also. So thank you for watching, and we had a great time. Thanks for the good time. A real soul man.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Yumi, for your comments, and thank you everybody else for your comments and your participation. We need each other more than ever before. We don't go for the okie doke anymore. Let's stand up for one another.
Right.
Stand up for one another. So with that in mind, have a blessed night, have a blessed week, and to see you again next Tuesday, right on time for the Men's Room Talk Show. The host, Dr. Sadiki Che Baye, your servant, and our producer, Queen Mother Harriet Victoria Atkerson.
Thank you so much.
Hargro Atkerson. I can't forget the Hargrove now. I
No,
don't want
can't get
no beatings from the ancestors, so I'm gonna say it all.
we have to put Mama and Daddy in there every time.
Every time. That's right.
Every time.
So they're the team and they're responsible for us being here. Have a blessed night.
Great.
And everybody else, continue to stay strong and keep your faith where it belongs, and let us continue to do better. There's always room for better. Best is when you're at your end. That's why they say, what do you do there? Do better. So better should be at the top, not best. So there's always room for better. So let's continue to do better and and make our ancestors and our elders who's here, make sure that we put a smile on their face saying, job well done.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Thank you.